Good afternoon. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So today, welcome to our workshop regarding a follow-up to the RFP ad hoc committee's work. We'll take roll call. Vice President Ron Spooner.
Present.
Treasurer.
Present.
Director Palmer.
Present.
Director Roper.
Present.
Director Wells. He's not available. And Director DeFilippis. Not available. All right. And the general manager is here with us. Casey, can you confirm proof of notice, please?
Yes, I can confirm proof of notice.
Thank you. So, thank you all for joining us today for the first workshop to explore HOA management options, recognizing that our current management company, Hope Properties, remains in play. At the September board meeting, Melanie addressed the scope and uniform process taken by the ad hoc committee to conduct a fair comparison among all candidates. Effort was made to evaluate the level of services and fees separately. The ad hoc committee now has facilitated today and tomorrow's 2 workshops of presentations and interviews to assist the board in further evaluating both quality and value prior to any board decision moving forward. At this time, we're going to take a short pause and bring our first guests in. Thank you. All right, good afternoon and welcome. I'm Kathy Conway, President of the Sandoval Community Association Board of Directors. Today we are meeting with representatives from the Castle Group. On behalf of the Sandoval Community Association Board of Directors, I'd like to welcome you, each of you, to Sandoval as we further our property management requests for proposal efforts. Joining us today are Sarah Mabry, who's the Vice President of Operations for Southwest Florida, based in Estero, Florida, and Greg Vaughn, President of the Castle Group, based in Plantation, Florida. Perfect. And representing the Board of Directors, I'll ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, starting from my right.
My name is Al Roper. I'm on my 3rd year as director at Sandoval.
All right, and then joining us, I think you met our general manager, Casey Pinella. Great. So thank you all. The format for today's interview session is a 15-minute presentation by our guests, followed by a 45-minute question and answer period. So we're excited to hear from you. So let's get started. The floor is yours.
Stand up, sit down.
Whatever you're comfortable with. Stand or sit. Just make sure the mic's...
I gotta stand. I gotta move around. This Zoom stuff is killing me with the so I gotta stand. I'm happy to be in person. So.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. So my name is Craig Vaughn. I am the president of Castle. From a Castle standpoint, I have 2 partners, Rob and James Donnelly. James and I went to kindergarten together. He says 50 years ago. I say a long time ago. Who needs to put a label on it? But and of course, my other partner is his brother. So we have a very small feel to us as an organization. Here I am, owner to owner, on a Wednesday afternoon. Asking you for your business. We do have 1,800 teammates now, so we have, again, all of the support of a large company, but a small feel, which is what we like to do. I want to introduce Sarah Mabry. Sarah is the vice president. And Sarah, I'll let you tell a little bit about yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us today. So a little bit about me. I started with Castle Group in 2013. And I chose Castle Group because I really believe in their purpose and their values. But what was important to me is that I understood what that felt like at the field level, what that support, what those best systems and practices that they raved about at the time, what that meant. So I actually started, and I was managing a community much like the Sandoval, large amenities, large HOA. And so I really got to understand what it was like to be in the field working for this organization and what that partnership felt like with the boards, the residents, and with Castle Group. So as I grew my career, we grew in Southwest Florida. And currently I have a leadership team that works directly with our licensed CAMs in this region. My region's from Marco Island to Punta Gorda. and I have just over 30 licensed CAMs reporting across this region. A couple of regional directors that help to support them, and an entire team in our Estero office that also helps to support them. And one of the things I'm most proud of now, after being with Castle Group for as long as I have been, is in this region we've been voted Best of Fort Myers, Best of Naples, Best of Estero, and Best of Bonita Springs for several years in a row now. So it really speaks to the value of what Castle Group brings as an organization.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. So what we'd like to do this afternoon is, first I'd like to compliment you on the RFP process that we've gone through. It is probably the most robust RFP process ever. There's a job in this somewhere for you, for sure, if you ever want to do that. But it was very impressive, and it allowed us to tell you what we do. And what we wanted to do this afternoon is, because you know what we do, we thought we'd tell you how we're different. You're going to interview a number of management companies. We have great competitors. We can all do the job. But what we want to do is tell you a little bit about why we're different. So we kind of have 10 things, and I've been very strategic in the way I've organized this afternoon. I'm going to talk philosophy, and then Sarah's going to talk when the rubber hits the road, what really happens on a site and how we manage it. So we're going to start by the 10 things that differentiate ourselves from our competition. Number one is that we are industry leaders. James, my partner James, and I have done bi-weekly webinars since the onset of COVID to walk the communities through what they're thinking, what they should be thinking, how to guide them through this process. We've actually we've given webinars to more than 20,000 board members, owners over the last 6-month period, and we continue to do that. So our thought leadership is a differentiator. Our participation in what is an industry group for management companies called CEOMC. It's a group of CEOs of leading management companies that meet on a monthly basis to talk about industry trends, what's happening in our industry, those types of things. One of their big issues is to lobby for appropriate change to the regulations, and James has testified before the committees up in Tallahassee in that regard. So from a leadership standpoint, we see ourselves as different from our competition.
And we also see ourselves as specialists in the industry. Our focus is full-time on-site property management. So we focus on large-scale HOAs such as this with robust amenities and lifestyle programs. We have a lifestyle team just over 40 lifestyle directors across the state. And they meet quarterly currently, where we share best practices on events, program planning, scheduling, just all kinds of training and support around that to our lifestyle teams. And we also have a fully dedicated transition team who helps with the transition of onboarding a new community to our Castle family, to take that burden off of the site team and the administrative burden off the staff. So they're fully dedicated to make sure that that's a smooth transition.
So our third differentiator is our people, our team. And, we can have great systems, great accounting, great other things. The reality is, if we don't have a great team to support the resident experience and the on-site operations, we will not be successful. So we are very proud that we are a best place to work. We have been for 10 years running. And what does that allow us to do? That allows us to hire and attract great people and hire great people to serve in our communities. We've sponsored several years ago. We sponsored the first property management minor in the state at Northern Southeastern University, NSU, and we did that so that we could grow the talent in our business. And it was a little self-serving. We sponsored the program. We underwrote the whole thing. Then we had our regional directors teach in the program. So that filled our intern program, which filled our management trainee program. So we're very excited. This year was announced as a major, so it's moving, and it's the only one, again, in the state that we use to attract our people. And then we have an industry-leading training program. We're not building rocket ships, as we say all the time. We're dealing with the resident experience and the operations of an on-site community of all these amenities. So we have training for all of our team, and we use all the modalities of training, right? There's online training, there's side-by-side. Used to be side-by-side, now it's side-by-side 6 feet apart. It's not quite the same experience, but
Zoom by Zoom.
Zoom by Zoom, exactly. And then, of course, we have one-on-one coaching, mentoring. So that would be our third differentiator, is our people.
Yeah, so we have our home office in Plantation, which houses 170 plus team members that support the field. And those departments are like our information technology, client communications, a robust resident services center, which allows for residents, if they can't get someone on site, to call in and know that there's going to be someone that answers the phone, a live person. We offer 24 hours after our emergency situations, but we also have the local regional office here in Estero, which is right in the middle of my region, where we have accounting support. We have our account manager that really is our boots on the ground with transition of new accounts. We have our regional directors as well as our Ready Now managers who are, that great talent. We're not going to pass them up if we're constantly sourcing good people. So we hire them, we bring them on our Ready Now program to make sure that they're ready for the next potential opportunity. But they also assist us then when your property manager wants to go on vacation. We allow that, right? They have to have a break. But we want to make sure that there's support to help with your team throughout that process. So we have that, we call it a circle of support that really sort of hugs, embraces your property manager and provides the resources to help them focus on your community and the management of your community.
Excellent. The next one is our comprehensive accounting platform. We use Generic, and we talked a little bit about that in the RFP. What I will say about it is we're completely transparent. The board can have access to our accounting records. They can see, they can't really do anything, but they can see whatever they want to. So we give them access to that. It's led by CPAs. James and I are CPAs. When we built Castle started in 1996, we built it on a sound financial platform. So we're well aware. And this is only stuff that would excite Bill. But from a debit credit standpoint, we love to talk about it. I could talk about it all afternoon, and I have 15 minutes. Sarah told me I had to keep it quick. But it is led by CPAs. James and I are at the top of that. We don't do all the work, but we certainly created the framework to operate in a control environment. And then we have a strategy that's a little different than our competitors. Your financial statement doesn't go into a pool and gets done by someone different every month. You have a dedicated accountant. It's someone that you would work with as a board, as a treasurer, as a finance committee if you have a finance committee. And the advantage of that is, we expect our property managers to be able to do a budget and read a financial statement, but we don't really expect them to be able to talk debits and credits with accounting people. And that's what frustrates some of our boards and our managers, and they just can't deal on the direct, prepaid insurance, amortization, those types of things. So the treasurer gets someone that they can talk to who could come to the meetings, who's familiar with their financial statement, they can email, speak to, again, meet in person to deal with any financial questions that they have.
And I'm sure you've seen in our proposal, we have a philosophy at Castle that it really is very secular with people, systems, and technology. So we do have quite an extensive program when it comes to our systems. And really, it's our best practices. Over the years, 30 years doing this now as an organization, it's all the best systems and best practices that we can bring to your community as we've learned throughout the 375 associations that we currently manage. And it's just been codified as, a trainable system as our best practices. And then we need the technology to support what your manager is doing on the site. There's a couple of things that our technology team, which we have a dedicated team, is focused on. And really, it's the resident experience, is to enhance the resident experience. We do that with our website platform and our mobile application. We are, as far as I know, the only management company right now that has what we call Drawbridge, but it's a mobile app. So it really puts the management of some parts of the residents' experience at their hands, whether they want to change their address when they're moving up north, they want to check their ledger, they want to submit a maintenance order or a work order right there from their phone. We also, the goal of our technology team is to reduce, again, the administrative burden. We want the manager focused on managing the community, managing the assets, managing the maintenance, managing the teams. So they need the support and from a technological standpoint to be able to do things efficiently and quickly on the site so they aren't pulled into this recreating the wheel themselves. And finally, we really use it as a measurement tool. Performance is only as good as how you can measure it and the data that you can receive from that. And so, across our kingdom and all of our regional offices and our plantation office, we have, technology boards up that are measuring KPIs and service level agreements and things like that. And the really purpose of that is to know where do we need to surge our resources because we have the support for the field, and so this allows us to measure performance and surge resources where needed.
Excellent. So the next distinction is that we are very agile and customizable. So we're not in the you fit into a box and this is how we're going to manage you. Our idea is, James and Robin are actively working in the business. Sarah is the best in the you will find in this market.
I paid him to say that.
You did, and it's contract negotiation time. It's not perfect timing for me, but we'll deal with that at another time. But there is no one better. I will tell you that.
Thank you.
But we're very agile. We can surge resources if we need to. We have lots of expertise across our organization. If you have an engineering issue, we have an engineer. And then we're looking for a customizable solution for you. What works? What is the lifestyle programming that you want? Are there repurposing of amenities that can take place? All of those types of things. So we want to sit down with you if we're chosen to be your partner and, look at the business of the association, look at the 5-year strategic plan and do all those things and truly be your partner, not be your vendor. I will say, and I tell everybody else, we're not perfect, but we're lovable. The reality is we will make our mistakes. For sure we will. That's just the nature of human relationships. But what we will do is we will come and we'll be accountable and we'll sit here and we'll sit around the table and we'll break bread and we'll work through whatever challenges that may come up. If you're looking for the perfect solution, you're probably not in the right spot. And then I would leave you with our commitment to royal service. And in 10 years ago, actually 15 years ago now, we were really looking for what was going to differentiate us in the market, and we landed on service. So we went to my partner James went to the Ritz-Carlton Legendary Service School. They sell their intellectual property, and we learned how to build a service organization. And we've set about, since that time, we wrote our constitution, which is in our package, and we said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create an environment. We're going to create a set of values, which are James, Rob, and my values, and we're going to surround ourselves with people who share those values and who have service in their heart, and who have the happiness advantage, who are half glass full. That's who we want in our communities. And so we've done that for 15 years. We call it Royal Service because Ritz-Carlton used Legendary Service and we weren't allowed. So we called it Royal Service, and we train it, and we live it, and we coach it, and it really changes. Our goal is to change what it feels like to live in your community. What is the experience coming to the office? What is the experience coming to the pool? What is the experience coming through the front gate? Those are all touch points for a resident or a guest. And our idea is every resident/guest, every interaction, every time is our opportunity to make a difference. And that's what we focus on. So that is our 15-minute elevator speech. What I would leave you with, again, is we have good competitors. You're going to go through this process, and it's exhaustive, and I compliment you. It's very impressive. You're going to feel comfortable with somebody, and we hope it's us. So in your gut, you're going to say, these are the partners I want, and we're hoping it's us. And then we can sit down and, work our financial relationship out. We've made a proposal. You know where we need to be. We don't need to be there right away, but that's, we're prepared to make an investment in our relationship if that's what it takes. So I would say pick who you're most comfortable with. The business deal will follow, and then hopefully we'll be that choice. So that's all I have. Anything to add?
You did great. I usually have to cut them off, so that was impressive.
I've been watching the clock. Very strategic putting the clock in front of me, I have to tell you. So. And we're welcome. Any questions you have, we're happy to answer.
Yeah. Great. Perfect. Thank you. Well, why don't you have a seat? Well, you'll make us feel more comfortable if you're seated. Now it'll be our turn to take the stand. But I'm going to open the floor then to my colleagues. And I don't know, who wants to go first with a question? Melanie?
I have a few, but we can kind of jump around a little
Yeah,
bit.
perfect.
So, one thing that you had mentioned was, and it definitely caught our interest, was around the app, the Drawbridge app. Especially in a community this size, there's people that are all different stages of life. Some people would prefer to come into the office and do what they need to do. Other people never come in, they're on their phone constantly. Can you give me a little bit more information around what other communities have leveraged that app for? What types of activities are used on it?
Okay, I'll start, and then you can finish. So I think the number one is communication. The notification of what's going on, the ability to quickly notify someone. I'm sorry. See how quickly I lose the ability to follow instructions? I think what I said with the question was the mobile application. The most frequent use we see is communication. That is number one. And that's our ability to, if you have, there's some construction going on I saw. You could easily say, okay, by the way, in Glendale, or wherever it was, we're doing construction today. The road will be shut down, whatever it happens to be. So communication would be number one. I think work orders, people get frustrated when they walk around and they see something, and we really are looking for them to partner in the management of the community, the residents. So, get out your phone, take a quick snap, send it as a ticket as a work order into the office, and then you get a response. Like, knowing that we got it and that we're acting on it, and when we finish and close it out, they get a response back. That would be another one, Sarah.
Yeah, we know that a lot of people use it as well to make a payment, a quick payment of their whatever's on their unit ledger, but also they can see the history. And believe it or not, the one that I hear the most is that they can just very simply change their mailing address. And that sounds like a simple thing, but I heard all too often they would have to call an office, speak to someone, then hope that they did that, and then all of a sudden they're up north and their mail isn't coming. And it was just a very simple. But yes, the reality is the communication being quick and efficient. That is the most important. That's critical in community management. I had a community, it's 2,500 homes recently. There was a pipe that burst out from the city, boil water notice immediately. That's a safety issue. We had needed to touch our residents immediately, and that was the tool to do that. So, and it really helps also when you're talking about emergency preparedness and working through a hurricane potentially or pandemic, unfortunately, and things like that. So that's what it's been most useful for currently.
Okay. And then is that something that, because it's your own app and you develop it, that as a community, if there were certain features that weren't available within there, that we could work with you to build in enhancements?
We have, yes. There is a set of features. I mean, it's continually being updated. So there is a feature set that's coming down the pike in terms of training, but absolutely we'd be open to any suggestion that you may have. Maybe you want a special link to something. All of those things are available.
Okay.
Is it proprietary to Castle?
No, it's not. Sorry, let me back. So it's developed by a company called Grid, who we have a financial interest in. So that's why it's proprietary. But they also have third-party companies they provide the software to, the platform to as well.
Okay, very good. Bill?
On the financial information, the healthcare insurance for employees, I see that we're using
What's your microphone on?
on the financial information that you provided us, the template for all the costs, I see that healthcare, we're using $511 per employee. Is that the number that if we select you, all of our full-time employees, we would be paying into you for their health coverage?
No. So the total cost of the the base level plan is $511. The employer share, which we pass through to you, is $465. The employees pay $25 a pay for the basic plan, and then they can buy up their program. So it's basically an allowance of $465 they get, and we bill you, quite simply, for everybody who's on the plan, but only those people that are on the plan. So it's a pass-through cost.
Okay. I'm going to follow up on that. Bill, did you have another one, or?
No, that's enough.
Okay.
Well, I do follow up, and then I've got another one.
Okay, so with your labor burden, we noticed that your labor burden percentage was the same. It was the same for full-time, part-time, and maintenance as outlined in the information you shared with us. Mm-hmm. Can you address that?
Yeah, I can for sure. The difference between the costs for an employee are most of the costs for those included in that are salary driven, rate driven, total compensation driven. So FICA by way of the example. So it doesn't matter whether they're full time or part time. They attract the same burden rate. We use 25 as a blended rate. The one distinction is the workers' comp rate for a maintenance person is about 4 times what it is for an administrative person. Some associations or some of our competitors differentiate them. We just add it as a blended rate. So that's how we kind of address that. So no difference between part-time and full-time because those costs are frankly the same for me. On a workman's comp basis, it is more expensive for a maintenance person, but we use a blended rate.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
My follow-up is, since you and your partner are CPAs, do you provide remote access to our CPA auditor to our records for audits?
Yeah, in fact, one of the things we didn't say is I think if you asked your CPA, and I don't even know who they are, they would probably tell you we have the best product. So we do bring them in at the beginning of the season, and we take them through our control environment, so our system changes so they can kind of check the box from a system standpoint. And then we give them access to the associations they have engagement letters for. And we tease them, you can do your audit in your pajamas with a glass of wine. That's how we sell our audit services to associations. So they get full access to everything.
It's our style. I have a question. Due to the financial strain some of the residents are currently experiencing in light of COVID and work situations and stay at home with kids in school, virtual schools, Some members have sought the need for financial help and have experienced issues with paying their HOA dues and are on a payment plan, if you will. What advice are you providing HOAs regarding preparation of budgets for 2021 in light of this concern?
Sir, let me just take a stab at this, and then in the webinar series that I've done, we talked specifically about both of those things. Number one, the collections and what you should be doing from a collection standpoint, and number two, how you should address the costs associated with the COVID compliance. So let me break those down into two things. From a collection standpoint, we've basically said protect your interest, collections as normal, but stop at foreclosure. No one's getting foreclosed on. That's just completely inappropriate in our mind in this environment. And have dialogue. If you can't pay, is there a plan? Those types of things. So it sounds like you're doing that, which is an excellent strategy, one we would recommend. From a cost standpoint, I polled the listeners when I did my survey, and about half were separately budgeting for COVID-related costs in 2021. So they've determined that if you have to monitor the pool, the extra cleaning protocols, all of those things, they have separately budgeted those line items because they're explainable from normal. Like, you have two choices: you can loop them into janitorial and maintenance costs, or you can separately identify them with the premise that they should go away. Ideally, we all hope that they will go away, but about half are budgeting separately for COVID. Sarah, is that what you're seeing?
That's what I'm seeing exactly, yes. Yep.
Okay. Al?
At your other locations, do you employ qualified maintenance personnel, or are outside repair vendors mainly utilized on a per-issue basis?
So depending upon the needs of the community and what the scope of the work that's needed to be done is. So yes, we employ qualified maintenance. Most of our associations have maintenance, either one individual or teams. And they're trained to do, the routine maintenance, the grounds, the minor repairs and things within their skill set. If it requires something that's of a license or needs an engineer support or a permit, then we would obviously suggest that you use a professional in that industry to make sure that it's done correctly. But yes, we do employ maintenance.
Thank you.
Okay. Ron?
Hello, I appreciate you coming out. Do you have a document retention plan tailored to Florida? And if so, how do you store the HOA documents, or is that just local?
No, we do. We have a full IT team. As the CFO of Castle, more than I think we need, but we definitely have a full team on the technology side. Almost everything is cloud-based. Now, GenArch itself is not. It's a hard server based, but the documents are all backed up in the cloud. And we have all the built-in redundancies and all of those types of things. The requirement for records retention is 7 years for official records. We actually subscribe to that. Some associations want to keep records forever. Good and bad reasons to do that. I mean, if there's a lawsuit or something you're involved in, makes sense. But we really, back in the day when everything was hard copied, we'd basically shred everything that was 8 years old. But it's 7 years is the retention for most of your records. Some are permanent records, your declarations and stuff like that. So we have a full set of best practices around that issue.
And how would you handle the transfer or the transition from a document perspective? Would you expect to back up our documents via the cloud, or how would that work?
Yeah, so we have a full, like I said, fully dedicated transition team, and with 170 transition checklists that they work through. One of which is the documents, is to make sure that we've collected them all. We create an association drive specific for your community, where we house your documents. We would come here, we would make sure that we went through everything you had on site, scan it in, and depending upon how you felt about whether or not we kept those hard copies and your comfort level with that, we would do both. What's great about the remote server and having access to your particular association drive is your manager can access it from here, from home, from anywhere. It's cloud-based and it's protected. And so any of our team members can do the same. So if someone were working remotely, they would have access, of course, to all of your documents at their disposal. And, if and when there were a need that the board would like to see a copy of those, we would be able to download those to a USB and transfer it to you so you could have access to that as well.
Is that an included service, or is
Absolutely.
that an additional fee? Okay, thank you. Is The Drawbridge app, is that a included service or is it an additional fee?
It is included. We have a web services solution. It's $195 a month. It includes the mobile app. You have to have the web service platform to have the mobile app, but it's free once you pay the $195. Similarly, we use smart webs for violations. I know we have a covenant person, I believe, in the agreement. So we use smart webs, which is a great program. It interfaces with GenArc. It's all mobile-based, takes pictures, all those types of things. And we also have a mobile, Smart Webs has a mobile ARC app, which is another great platform. So that whole platform is included in the $195 per month. By the way, I think we agreed to waive that.
We did. We agreed to include
So no
that.
charge. It is included in our fee. So let me go back.
And we thank you for that.
We have 1,425 homes in this community and currently have one deed restriction enforcing our documents. Do you feel that is sufficient? Would you be able to do the job with one full-time employee? Do you think that's overkill? I'm just curious your position on that.
Sarah, you know best.
You know, sometimes that's hard to answer, not knowing the community and what exactly, you know, the covenant's concerns are. They're typically the same throughout most communities. It's going to be, you know, a lot of the same thing. But, you know, we have comparable communities this size that have one covenants team member. We call him a covenants coordinator. That we find we find that with the technology that we can bring to help support it and the efficiencies that brings with it, it's very manageable with one person. Now, if we were to come on board and the board said we don't think it's enough, and you know, we would ask, give us some time to figure out if we can maybe bring our efficiencies that could make it enough, and then if not, then we would explore that together.
Could you elaborate a bit on the efficiencies that you utilize to help assist the?
Yeah, I could talk about the Smart Webs platform a little bit. So back in the day, you'd go out to the community as a covenant coordinator. You'd write down the violation that you were trying to enforce, you know, spitting turtle in the garden. You come back to the office and you type in spitting turtle in the garden and you'd send a letter and you'd log it and that types of things. The way the Smart Webs, the way the application works is one, you do your tour, and we would divide the community into 4 quadrants. That's how we do it. And you go through a cycle each quadrant. And so what happens is you go through and you take a picture and you literally send the mobile violation. You can do it from there, or you come down and you load it into the application. You send them out from the office. And then what you do when you go to do your next drive, you have a GPS map, and you know there's color coordinated where the violations are. First violation, second violation. So you can literally drive through the community and you can clear violations on your phone as you go through. Well, back in the day, you couldn't do that, right? You came back to the office, you opened up the violation, you closed it out. So it's that technology that allows it to be much more efficient than what it was in the past.
And what's also really great with that program is it speaks to our GenArc accounting and unit roster software program. So, you know, right now, if you have an open violation, you would want that to appear on a estoppel potentially if somebody was trying to sell their house, especially if there was a financial value to it. So those programs speak to each other. So once you've done that out in the field, the violation then is attributed to that unit owner's immediate, you know, to their roster. It's not a manual process behind the scenes.
It's real time, yeah.
I can say up until recently, efficiency has been a concern for us. I feel like we've had to focus more manpower than necessary due to the lack of efficiency. But I'm going to switch. I appreciate the answer. Switch topics. Do you have any partnerships with vendors or anyone that we would benefit from?
We do not. So Castle is a management company. We do financial and administrative management only. That is our business. We were historically in the vertical integration, right? The landscaping, pool, but we've been out of those businesses now for 10 years. So we don't have any of our own vendors, our own related companies, but we do have vendors that we would call preferred vendors in that we know that you know they can service. But Sarah, you know better than me.
Yeah, I think, you know, when it comes to that, we don't have any financial interest in partnership with another vendor. We think, especially when you're talking about some of your largest contracts, that really can be a conflict if they're in partnership versus making sure that your management company is looking out for the best deal for the association across the board with no vested interest. So that's kind of our philosophy with that. Now, that being said, we have what Craig calls preferred vendors, and what I would agree is people that we know have done a good job for us at other communities, and that's based off of the referrals of those members that have worked with them as well, that we could bring in and say, from economy of scale, we know what you should be charging for this because we've seen it across our 375, so we can negotiate with them and find you, maybe some better terms and bring to you, expose to you some vendors that maybe you haven't dealt with previously.
And that's exactly where I was leading at. The term partnership is more of a colloquialism. That's the approach that I was using, not an official financial relationship, but basically a pool of vendors in which you have a trusted relationship with and therefore provide you certain benefits because you manage multiple communities. It sounds like the answer is yes.
Absolutely, and we actually use a program called Smart Vendor, Vendor Smart. One of those two. And it's purposeful two ways. One, it's for risk mitigation. It requires that any vendor be licensed and insured, and it's checked through a third party to make sure that that's always the case. So that's number one. Number two, it allows for our managers to rate them with their experience. If they did the scope that was asked on time, if they were responsive, so that when your manager goes in and searches landscape, it would show all the vendors that are licensed and insured that have worked for Castle communities, and it would show their ratings so that they want to make sure they're making our customers happy because they don't want a poor rating because they want to be invited to our other communities. So it kind of works in that standpoint as well.
The other thing I would add to that platform has a Rfp Builder. You don't need an Rfp Builder. You've got a great one in Millie, but it has an Rfp Builder. So if you're bidding your landscaping by way of example, it allows you to build the RFP into the proposal, into the platform, and then send it out. And the advantage of that is the vendors have to respond to exactly those line items. So you don't fight the apples-to-apples comparison. So that's a huge advantage that our property managers like.
And that's included in our cost. We do that because as an organization, we wanted to make sure that we were managing that potential risk with insurance and license. So that's part of our program.
You mentioned risk mitigation. That was actually my next question. So nice segue in. Thank you. In terms of site visits, is there a certain specific amount from a management perspective that you would come and inspect the entire community? And is there any protocol when it comes to ensuring that we do everything we can from a risk mitigation perspective to ensure there aren't any active defects that we can handle proactively, obviously much better than reactively?
Absolutely. So, our managers, we kind of train them to make sure that they're focusing on the Hollywood areas every time they drive into their community. What are the focal points that they should want to make sure always just pop for the residents and for your guests? And then we ask for a more in-depth property inspection to be completed on a monthly basis. And it's a full multi-page, document where they're going through and they're rating. What do my sidewalks look like? Where are my lifts located? What's going on with the lighting? Or do we have risk with our lighting? What is our, and it's just a full component. And they will provide recommendations, and they'll provide that to the board, and they'll bring that to your attention, as well as we teach them to proactively go to bid. We know if we have sidewalks that are lifting, we need grinds, and we need to know what that, we need to present that with, here's your problem, here's your solution, and so that's how we train our managers. And then we also have our regional directors who visit the sites twice a month at a minimum. More often during the early stages, or if there's a large project going on or some opportunities that they can provide more support. And the purpose of that is to have side-by-sides with your team, be available to the board for guidance and support, attend board meetings, but also to attend a property inspection with the manager to really make sure that they're not gaining tunnel vision. We know that happens, and that they're looking and inspecting the areas that they should be.
The other thing I would say, if I could add, we use technology tools to measure both of those things. So we use Salesforce, we call it touch tracking in our organization. So when a regional director comes on site, they click on, visited the site, met with the manager, and then we can run, when we're running our business, we can make sure that they're committing to doing the things that we promised they're going to do. The other thing we do is we do a quarterly Op Scorecard. It's a digital scorecard for the sites. Regional comes out, sits side by side with the manager. It's about a 90-minute quarterly review, and it goes through our systems. And it's different every quarter. Like now, it's budgets. So you have your budget meeting done. is it scheduled? Do we have notices? Are we voting on reserves? Those types of things. And make sure that we look at collections. Is everybody who should be at the attorney? Are you properly enforcing the policy? So we have quarterly Op Scorecards, and then they roll up to the business unit leaders, Sarah being one, and we can make sure that we're delivering on the promises we're making you today.
What is your position on or your role with a community Facebook page, and what is your position on allowing comments on a community Facebook page?
Boy, those are just interesting sometimes, aren't they? So,
And social media in general, I'm sorry.
right. The reality is social media is out there. It's happening, and there's no control over it. We want to make sure that the residents are coming to the proper channels when they want a response from management. And that's through the office, that's through the community website, if there's an opportunity to speak to that. So we do not encourage our managers or our team to interact in social media, Facebook types of situations. We have had maybe a board before that has said, well, I'd like for you to at least respond. Well, then the response is, come and see me in the office. I'd be happy to, kind of talk through that, but it's not to get into a war. But so we leave that to the residents to have their, hopefully for positive reasons, something's going on, something's fun. We know that's not always the case, but we prefer the proper channels when discussing association business.
Yeah, that's right. Monitor and not interact would be it. And we don't have very many websites where we allow kind of the back and forth, because it just becomes back and forth.
And frankly, that is more recently the position that we've taken by removing comments, because we've noticed that a number of questions are posted on social media sites and answered by individuals that aren't in the know, frankly. So it's very misleading, and really we've struggled a bit to get those questions directed to the right channels. Okay, so I appreciate your answer. How many communities do you currently manage in Florida?
In Florida, we manage 368. We have 7 accounts in Texas, which I'm very proud of. My daughter lives in Texas. But basically 360 here. The way we break it down, 200 sites, which are communities like this. We have 55 over 1,000, which kind of Sarah talked about in her presentation, which kind of makes us specialists. But that's kind of the breakdown.
Okay, well,
Can I just
congratulations on Houston. I used to live in Houston, and I went to U of H, actually.
In one of those communities that you mentioned?
I don't believe so. I have to look at the communities. But
Do you know anybody from those?
Commons and Atascocita are the 2 communities we manage.
I know the Commons very well, actually. George Foreman used to live there.
Yes,
I think he
does he not live there anymore?
I think he does.
He still has a
frankly.
home. I don't think he lives there.
Okay. How has that number increased significantly or decreased in the last 5 years in terms of the Florida-based properties?
Yeah, we're a very slow growth company. Our goal is to grow 1 account in each market. We have 5 markets in Florida. And we've grown 15% on a compounded basis, 15% a year for 25 years.
Okay.
That's our strategy. So we don't want to take on too many accounts because we just can't service them. We can't keep our promises.
Fair
and
enough.
I will tell you, we lose 5% of our accounts at the end of the year. We measure it. We're 97% retention this year, which is great, but we do lose about 5% of our accounts. But that's kind of our growth, 15% a year.
Okay, I'm going to hand it over to you, Melanie.
Well, that was actually a couple of my questions was around the number of accounts that have been coming up. And for the percentage that you do feel you lose, that 5%, what is the reasoning for that? Is it anything that's specific?
I would say there's 3. We analyze, we do an after-action review every time we lose an account to see what happened. And I would say there's the three basic reasons are politics.
Mm-hmm.
A board comes in, they just they ran on change, and we lose that battle. We lose on price. We will not. I would suspect when you compare our price to the rest, we're probably not the cheapest, and that's okay. We understand that. And then we lose. Sometimes we miss. We miss on a manager. We can't connect very well with the board, and it just doesn't work.
It's
Good
such a
people get
relationship
divorced.
industry.
Yeah.
So some of it is just
Right. Yeah, and there is so much transition, especially with dealing with different boards and different members.
It's the dream we've chosen, but it's every year.
And then
but it's also refreshing too, because we do have those relationships where we tell our team, ensure. The reality is we believe in an efficient market, right? The right people will ultimately represent the community, is what our feeling is, and sometimes that's not the current board, but it will come. If the market is efficient, eventually you'll get the people who represent the community on the board. That's
right.
our philosophy.
And then, do you maintain separate bank accounts for each one of the associations, or does it go into a pool? Is it all separate for every? Okay.
Do you have a self-imposed response time for getting financials on a monthly basis? And what would that be?
We do. We commit to the 20th. However, we have to start doing financial statements on the 5th. So someone's getting their financial statement on the 7th, and it really we're looking at you. What's your meeting schedule? We want it to the treasurer sometimes in advance of even going to the rest of the board. But we'll work with you depending on what your meeting schedule is. If your meeting schedule is the 10th of the month, it's not perfect. If it's around the 20th of the month and you did the 15th, we work it in. We work it into the schedule.
Great. Bill, do you want to follow up on that, or you're good? Okay. I'm curious. Talk a little bit about you talked about key performance indicators, the KPIs, and the service level agreements. What is your thoughts on adequate response times to emails, phone calls from the residents to the office, or from the office to your office, or the board to the general manager? What's your typical service level agreements? I know you mentioned it, Sarah.
Yeah, this is a little non-philosophical.
Yeah, indeed. Sarah, please.
Right. So we truly believe in same-day communication, or within one business day would be our standard. So if someone were to call the office, were to email the manager, were to email somebody from your team, were to email somebody or call somebody from our home office or our team, it's a response within one business day, if not same day. If it requires time, then the response is, here's when you can't expect it, but we received. And internally, and that's for our external, for our clients and our customers, but internally we also have KPIs and service level agreements to make sure from department to department, from department to field, everybody knows what the expectation is, and then we measure that. For example, if our property manager were to contact our accounting department for an inquiry on something, they would know that they should get a response within 8 business hours. And that's how we manage the success of all of our departments, to make sure that we're aligning, because our field team relies on the home office support to do their job, and a little bit vice versa. So that's really the focus of that, both internally and externally. And
you would see if you came to our office, we literally have a board in every department with their KPIs, and we use a GAR system, green, amber, red. If it's red, if an invoice has not been processed in a 24-hour period, it pops up as red on the screen. So, and we'd love to entertain you in our office. We often say, come and sit in our kitchen. You're allowing us to sit in your kitchen, and that's really where the work gets done and stuff like that. But you would see boards in every department with their key KPIs and whether they're meeting them on a daily basis, whether they're meeting them.
And what's great is I also have that in my regional office. So if I'm walking through our Castle University in Estero, and I can look up at the board at any time and see if there's a department right now that maybe is not meeting our expectation, and I'm getting calls from my managers going, oh, okay, something's a little slow here. I know what the situation is, and we're able to respond. And then as a team, we surge. A lot of our home office is cross-trained, so then we can surge resources to that department to make sure we're back in line with our KPI.
Okay, very good. Al?
Our main amenity here is this pool out here. How many of your locations have a similar size resort type?
I would say, at a minimum, every site with 1,000 units has a resort-style pool. In this type of robust amenity environment, so at least 50. And there could be others, but I would say, not 2. So a large number.
And I have several pools that we manage in my region alone that have like pool attendants or some sort of procedure when it comes to monitoring their pool. A lot of it has to do with access control as well. So we have some that are checking for badges. It just depends on what your setup is, but we're very familiar with the management of that type of facility.
It takes a lot of. I see that we put a lot of effort with this pool on a daily basis, operating it, maintaining it.
And I think I can hear a lot of people out there now, so they're using it. So that's, if you didn't, you'd be in trouble, So that's your residents are speaking loudly right now that they want to enjoy it.
I have to ask a question. Where do they park when they come here?
Is parking a problem?
It was until recently. We did expand our parking capacity, but unfortunately it was on grass road.
Yeah, that's okay.
You came in you saw a bunch of bags of mulch. And
I did, yes.
that whole parking lot, there's 24 spaces there, and that's additional.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think there were 55. So.
We saw tons of people walking around and jogging, so it must be a very
Yeah.
active community.
And there's some walking trails that lead into the pool as well. Tell us about your thoughts on vendor oversight, and how do you ensure that the terms of the contract are being completed or adhered to?
Well,
We have,
we
have gates, we have cable, we have landscaping, we have security, we have a number of third-party vendors, if you will.
So a couple things. Number one, from an experience standpoint, and I'll let Sarah talk about how we manage vendors, but from an experience standpoint, we're a management company. We believe we are responsible for whatever service is getting provided to the community. So when we talk about Royal Service, if your experience with the landscape vendor is bad, you're going to come to the office and you're going to look at me. You're not going to look at the landscape vendor. So our job in dealing with the resident experience and the vendors conceptually is we're on the same page. And so we invite our vendors into our Royal Service training program. This is our expectation with respect to how you're going to deal with this community. So conceptually, we're responsible for their delivery of services. From a practical standpoint, I'll Sarah.
From a practical standpoint, we have systems and tools that we put in place to make sure that our manager knows how to manage those contracts and knows what to be looking for. For example, we have, this is a business. It's your home, but it's a business to run. Right. So you should have a business strategy, a business plan. So every year we have an annual planning calendar that's customized for your community, and it outlines your maintenance contracts, your service level agreements throughout that. So if you have 5 mows in May, it should have the 5 mows. So it outlines your full facility maintenance program. And then on a regular basis, we encourage our managers to ride the community with the account supervisor of the key contracts, holding them accountable to it. A lot of our communities, what we do is called a Coffee with Castle. We do it once a month, where we invite residents to come in, gives us a feeling of what's going on in the community, helps to take some of that out of your board meetings because they're given an opportunity to meet and discuss their issues and be heard. And we will bring the vendors to those from time to time and make sure that they're also hearing the language of the residents and the pain points in the field, so that when we're holding them accountable, it's not just the word mouth of the manager. So, and also with our work order system. So there's a whole program that we have that surrounds that. And then when we sit and we do our contract renewal schedule every May before we start our budget process and throughout the year, we're looking at what contracts are coming up. Are they on auto renew? What is their escalator? And we use the same sort of GAR program that he talked about, green, amber, red, with our contract renewal. Is this one that's performing and we're happy with? Or is this on the red that we've had several issues and now maybe it's time to go to bid and hold them accountable and hold them, to their program? So there's a lot of that measurement around that.
I love that. The Coffee with Castle is a program we implemented several years ago, and it's a town hall. But it allows people to get their complaints off their chest, and again, we do bring the vendors. If the landscape vendor is a challenge, right, they're blowing grass into the pool, whatever it happens to be, we invite them in and we have them answer to the residents for the issues, and it's very effective. We get to hear specifically, to your point, what the residents are. Like, it's our form of in-person Facebook, right? We really get to hear what the issues are. Mm-hmm. And we get the vendors to respond right there on the spot. Yes, I'm here. Now we can say to them after, do you hear how angry they are like this? Like, we're not just telling you, this is a problem you need to address. And it's a great tool, and that's how we do business, right? Shake people's hands and look in their eyes and sit in a room and figure it out. That's our strategy.
Do you live stream those meetings?
Sarah,
we've started doing some
more
form
Zoom,
of that at
Zoom.
We hadn't been in the past. It was just come and meet with us because we appreciate the face-to-face. But now, yes, we are doing them via Zoom and allowing people to, you have to have the proper equipment, which you guys certainly do. So yes. Not a problem here, but to allow for residents to hear some of the feedback as well. Yes. Yeah.
Vic does a great job for us.
It's impressive. It's very ominous.
So, well, we're coming up on our 1 hour period. So, anybody have a last question for the good of the service? We want to thank you for coming in today and meeting with us and sharing your thoughts, your experience. And the process continues, as you know. And we appreciate your comments and your feedback. And I'm sorry Laura wasn't here. She was lovely to work with as our designated point of contact as well.
So listen, we appreciate the opportunity. We would be jazzed to be your partner. We did this dance once before with you guys. I was involved, I think, and we've been licking our wounds for 3 years. But we're back to the table now. And again, we'd love to be your partner. If you think of anything, Laura is fantastic. You can reach out to any of us if you have any questions, and we'll look forward to continuing the dialogue. So thank you again for your time.
All right, super.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll take a short break. Thank you.
Laura would be very...
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Conway. I'm the president of the Sandoval Community Association's Board of Directors. Today we're meeting with representatives from Associa Gulf Coast. On behalf of the Sandoval Community Association Board of Directors, I'd like to welcome each of you to Sandoval as we further our property management request for proposal efforts. Joining us today, we have John Hansley, president of Associa Gulf Coast out of St. Petersburg, Florida. Also, Alexandra Turner, the business development manager out of Fort Myers, Florida. She was our designated point of contact, and we thank you for that with the RFP process. And Nadine Kostek, did I say that right? Nadine Kostek, the Director of Human Resources from St. Petersburg, Florida. So I'm going to ask the board, representing the Board of Directors, I'll ask my colleagues to go around and introduce themselves, please.
My name is Al Roper. I've lived in Sandoval for 8 years, and I've been on the board for 3.
I'm Don Wells.
Hey, Don.
I'm Ron Spooner, Vice President.
Bill Tubb, I'm the treasurer, and I can do that.
Melanie Palmer. 4 years, 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
And I just had 5 years here in Sandoval. And we also have our general manager, Casey Pinello, with us today. So we're excited to hear from you. So let's get started. As we said, the format will be a 15-minute presentation by your side, followed by 45 minutes Q&A with the board members. So I turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for having us.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and let John Hansley kick us off.
I'm John Hansley. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. John Hansley, of course, with Associate Gulf Coast. Just a little background on myself and industry experience. I've been with Associate for going on 16 years now, and with Associate Gulf Coast for 2 years. And as far as licensing in the state of Florida since 1992, I'm from Vero Beach originally, and in 2005 I decided to make the trip and move up to Nashville, Tennessee, where I took over Associate Tennessee. As far as the environment from there to here, I've been, sorry, my throat is just, I got a cut from
Hi, everybody. I'm super excited that I got invited to join you all today. I have been with Associa Gulf Coast for 3 years. I serve in the capacity of HR manager at the branch and regional HR manager for Associa in Florida. That's 11 branch offices and about 430 employees, so we have a lot going on. We're very busy. I've been in human resources for 18 years, since I was born. And previously in hospitality, and transitioned over to Associa, like I said, 3 years ago. It's a really fun environment to be in. I loved being in hospitality because it's always so exciting. There are always different things going on. You meet so many different people from all around the world. But I always felt like it was a very limited transaction. You know, people come, they stay on vacation, they're there for 2 weeks, and then you never see them again. And so it's been really great to transition over to Associa, where that same hospitable feeling exists, but we get to form relationships over a really long period of time and spend real quality time with our residents and board members and communities, just helping them enhance their lives in their home environment, which is something that was missing from the hospitality environment. So I've really enjoyed being here at Associa, and I think that we offer a lot for employees. So I'm looking forward to all the questions that you have about employment with Associa, so I can tell you about the wonderful benefits that we offer for our employees.
Well, again, I'm Alex Turner. I'm the Business Development Manager, and thank you, and a special thank you to Kathy for dealing with all of my questions that I'm sure came in at inappropriate hours. So it's been great dealing with you. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to the dance and speak to you here today. I just want to give you a little bit of my background as well. I've been in association management for 25 years. I also started when I was 10. So it's amazing how that works out. I actually have a unique story getting to Associa. I was sitting on your side of the table just over a year ago, speaking to John Hansley about an opportunity to come to Associa. But it was much more of a job, much less of just a job for me, because I actually owned my own management firm and I had 30 associations that I was also looking after. So like you're sitting here today ready to make a decision on behalf of 1,425 homeowners. And I was having the same situation where it was becoming less about me and my career as much as what's the right company to go to in this situation, where the board members I had been taking care of for 10 years, where are they going to benefit? What's the benefit for them to move to Associa Gulf Coast as opposed to the mom and pop operation that I was running? And there's lots of great stuff about that, but one of the things that I realized along the way was I could not meet the needs of the associations that a company like Associa could, which is the reason I started looking for different. So I was in front of people. The reason I ended up making the jump was just because of people and technology. It really came down to two different things. Like I said, I was sitting in your seat staring at John Hansley, and he was telling me all about the great stuff about Associa. He's somebody who not only talks the talk, but walks the walk, and has for many years. So he's a great success story. And then listening to all of the benefits of the company, and then what my board members could benefit from as far as like I said, the technology portion, having really trained, knowledgeable employees at the helm was real beneficial to me, and that was one of the reasons that I ended up making the jump to Associa. I talked to a lot of different management companies, and I just felt like the people were genuine. They really, like I said, walked the walk. They knew the industry and were excited to grow and continue their market. I was out of Sarasota at the time, but which brings me here today. I've been here a year now, and we deal with all different types of associations, large master plan communities with lots of sub-associations. We do portfolio management. Associa itself has been around for 40 years, so that's definitely tried, tested. We've been through, if it's happened, we've been through it, and we've survived it and thrived in it, including murder hornets. I'm just saying, 2020. What? Again, we're definitely capable of handling. This is a jewel of a community, and we would be so honored to be able to manage this and call it part of our portfolio at Associa Gulf Coast. And we recognize the honor that it would be to manage this community, and would be very excited to be a part of your family and to work with your team here at Sandoval.
So I totally apologize. Just to carry on what Alex was saying before, with Associa, the reason for my move, I had my own small company in Vero Beach, Florida. In 2005, I decided, my wife is from Evansville, Indiana. We're going to look in that area. And it was more or less a move close to the in-laws, but not too close. So we moved there, but I met with a company that was just recently acquired by Associa. And from the time I was hired and the time that I started, they went through the acquisition. But it's such a wonderful company because it's what is great about being employed with Associa
is that there's so many opportunities for everyone. I started there as a manager and quickly worked my way up the ladder to the company president. But reason I love it, it's a I'm so sorry, guys. I really apologize. That would be absolutely wonderful. No. It's nothing like that. Believe me. But it's a company that offers so many opportunities for their employees and true commitment to the clients that we manage. And I think that is something that just by the personal feeling, we're the largest company in the world, but we're also an individually owned company, which I truly love that. But the constant communication through the employees, to the staff, which carries over to the clients, the dedication to our clients is absolutely tremendous. And I apologize. I have to stop there.
And, you know, outside of the employees that we talked about, and one of the things that reason why that's so important is because obviously employee turnover in this industry is big. So the better care that you take care of your employees and the better care HR does, the more that your employees stick around, which is something that we all want for a continuity within our communities. But the technology portion, and I know once we get into the questions, we're really going to drill down into these items, but our town square technology, I would put that up against anybody's technology, and it is far and beyond the best communication tool and management efficiency tool as well for associations. I'm not sure where we are on time, and I don't want to go over. So, okay, all right. I'm just trying to think if there's oh my God. Okay. Well, I mean, can we defer back and get to the questions? I'd love to do that.
I am very interested to hear more about what Associa has from a technology perspective. And we know that email is great for some things, but not everything. There's certain efficiencies that can be gained by using different technology. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you guys leverage technology and specifically around your app. What benefits have other communities seen from using that?
I want to speak to your point really quickly about technology is awesome, and when it is being used properly, it is efficient, it can be cost savings, it can be time savings, but at no point ever does it take the place of people and customer service. So in every community that we have people that don't want to engage in technology. So they're calling the manager on their cell phone, they're calling the office, and all that is perfectly fine, and we are set up to handle all of that as normal. Again, technology does not take the place of customer service at Associa at all. However, we again, recognizing that these days with busy working people want to be able to communicate to their manager when they're home from work, and that's not 9 to 5, that's after hours. And I'll start with our Town Square app. So this is an application. It can be on your phone, your laptop, your notebook, however you want to get it, your PC. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can communicate with your manager through there. You can put in work orders. You can get any of the documents that you may need, applications, ARC applications, the governing documents, whatever you need to be a homeowner here will be listed on that app. That all the financials will also be housed on there. The board members can use it to communicate via mass text or mass email. And again, those are some of the cost savings that we're talking about. So you don't have to do the mailing. I'm sure you have something in place already with an e-blast situation through the office.
Email,
but again, anything that you can do there, you can do on Town Square. Town Square tracks everything. It keeps a history. If you want to do a poll, for instance, you're thinking of resurfacing the tennis courts. Do we want to add pickleball to that? You can put a poll out. I know, Kathy. I wasn't given ideas, just examples. And these aren't legal polls, but it's a way to communicate to the association, and it's a way to make people engage as well. And the one thing about Town Square that I love, as opposed to a general website, is Town Square is all push notifications. So once we get people set up on Town Square, that's half the battle, is getting them set up. They don't have to go on every day to check. Hey. Sorry. She's so sorry. You don't have to engage every day on Town Square. It's going to let you know when something new has happened,
right?
And what the news is, what's going on. If you are a owner that's put a work order in, you're going to be alerted to when that work order has been received by the manager, when someone's been called out, when it's been closed out. So you're going to continue to get notifications along the way. Board members also are continually notified of everything going on as well. So you have your own level of access that, so if Mrs. Smith puts a work order in, you're going to be alerted as well to let you know that this is going on, so you're not left out of the loop. We're not asking you to do anything about it. We're going to handle it for you, but it lets you know it's happening. Mm-hmm. So if, in fact, you're running around or you're at a meeting and somebody corners you, you can say, yeah, I know, I saw that. It's in process. It's being taken care of. So work orders is a great communication as far as the e-blast, notifications, news bulletins are all awesome on Town Square. Housing all your documents, your financials, anything that anybody would need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they don't have to wait the next day, call the manager, get an email. It can all be done right there on Town Square. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from your phone, from your laptop, from your PC. If you're out and about and you're over here playing tennis and you see the net is ripped or something like that, you can snap a picture with your phone and turn it right in, and it's done. You don't have to think about calling the next day when you get in. And I'm saying how these things are done. You may have a different way of doing it with the office up here, but we can work all around that. Mm-hmm. Again, the cost savings by not having, you can utilize that for communications with the membership. By when they sign on, they agree to e-blast and e-messages. So that's part of the benefit as well. Again, not taking the place of customer service. People can always call the CAM and do all of the things that I just told you about as well. If we know there's people on there that are not utilizing Town Square and they want to get all this information, hard copy, we could do that as well. Mm-hmm.
And is it responsive, and does it use the native notifications in your phone? So it's like the same as if I get a text or something that it just pops up. It's not an email that's coming to my phone I have to go look for.
No. It's going to alert you. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. Right? But as Alex was saying there, it's a very interactive, but it's an interactive website. Is what it is. And the part with the board is fantastic, but I love the push notifications that you can get. It also, when the great thing about Town Square, once you're registered there, on any type of violations in the community, if we send a violation letter with a picture, we take a picture, and as soon as we do that, we can upload that, and it'll hit. They'll get a push notification immediately that they have this violation as well. The homeowner will. Mm-hmm. And it's a great tracking module for that. Also, with Town Square, you have the ability to make your payments, your homeowner payments. It's just another option, which is fantastic. And then on the CAM side, as far as the actual management side of it, the technology is C3 Mobile, which they have on their phones. And that's where you can literally enter data. You can bring it to a board meeting. If you have something, you can search an account right on your mobile phone or, of course, your computer. But it's just the quick access to all the information. Really everything since we started utilizing Town Square sort of evolves around Town Square. And it continues to grow. Mm-hmm. But it's a great platform for communities.
Is there a capability for sort of like an Amber Alert if there was an emergency situation and the gate was closed for whatever reason, we wanted to get immediate notification out? We could use it to push information to the community as well in the form of like a text message versus an email.
So two things. The answer to that question is yes, we can do that. The second thing is included in your package, we included Volo Village. Mm-hmm. And that's really important for a community this size. And Volo Village is an instant mass communication tool. Phone, text, email, all three. It can be a voice message. Like Kathy, you could record a message and it could go out. And so you can utilize that as well. So either of those would work. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say also, for the folks who are just calling in work orders or communicating via phone to the manager will go back and put that information back in Town Square. So as John was saying, there's always a tracking method for everything going on. Mm-hmm. So if we see the same owner turning in the same situation 3, 4, 5 times. Oh, what's happening here? You know, so those things, you know, or if the same bush dies that we keep getting called in, or we're going to call the landscaper and say, what's, you know. So the manager is also using it from that back end as well.
Okay.
I'd love to chime in on technology from an employee point of view. One of the things that I think has really been a testament to the hard work of Associa this year is when March came around and suddenly we were all going to a remote environment, the way that Associa's systems are set up is that we have the ability to access them from anywhere. The servers are housed in Dallas, and so I can sit at any computer, and it's as if I'm sitting at my desk. I have access to all my files and all the tools. We were able to pivot to the remote environment very quickly, and 95% of our workforce was able to continue working remotely. So where I'm sure other companies and other industries experienced a high amount of staff reduction and layoffs, that didn't occur for Associa because all the work that is being done here can be done, I mean, aside from face-to-face interactions and physical items, the other administrative things that we offer, they can be done any place. And I think that was a really exciting time for us to realize, because we, of course, knew that we had the ability to do this, but it was never put to the test. So now we've experienced that, and it's really been a seamless transition. And the feedback that we've had from our other communities is that they didn't even notice that there was a difference between someone physically sitting in the office or doing what needed to be done from any other location. So I'm really proud of how we managed that circumstance and the ease for the employee. It wasn't a stressful time for employees because they know how to use the systems already. They didn't have to get used to anything new. It was a seamless transition.
Very good.
And to that point is whether another, well, we're not even out of this one yet, but whether we get another pandemic or whatever happens, we could see a similar situation just in a hurricane.
Right.
So this whole building could be where you can't function out of here. That's no problem. We can pick up and we can function out of, whether it's out of our office or out of a remote location, a trailer. We can do all that and not miss a beat.
Good. Okay. Why don't we start with Al and we'll go right around. Is that okay?
Community maintenance is a big issue, whether it's the gates, whether it's the perimeter fencing, pool, the sidewalks on the Esplanade, all that. At your locations, do you typically employ an individual to maintain and inspect all these items, or do you put it out to vendors?
So I think it depends on the size of the community, and for a community like this, I think you're definitely having someone on site that's doing that on a daily basis. For other communities, we have what's called Associa on Call, and that is our maintenance division. It is you could choose to use it or not, but we can provide those services as well for you, or we can certainly look to hire someone that just comes in on a contractor basis. But I think it really depends on what are the daily tasks, how many hours do those are going to take in a day, and you weigh that out between what works best for an employee or a contractor situation. And my guess is here it's going to be an employee situation.
Thank you.
Okay. Don?
I contacted your references that you provided in the packet, and in a lot of these communities, you're doing certain functions and the CDD is doing the other functions. What kind of relationship do you have with those folks, and do most of your communities, do you have split administrations like these that some of these
I think we have both. We have where the master is the head of the association, like it is here at Sandoval, and then we have others that are still in development. They're still working with a CDD. So I think the answer is we do both, and our goal is always to work in tandem and as hand in hand with the CDD in this case, as you're saying.
But you have communities where you're doing all the functions.
Yes. Yep.
That's my question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
Yes, we did.
And others fine too, because I really thought a CDD just was a bond that put the roads in until, that's how that was maintained. I did not realize they managed the clubhouse and things of that sort, which I found on the phone.
Different associations are set up different ways.
Hello, thanks for coming out. I have a couple questions for you. Is the app that you mentioned, is that a paid service, like an a la carte service, or is it paid for through the management fee?
So Town Square is included in the management fee that we quoted you.
Okay. What is your policy for document retention? How do you store your HOA documents? Do you have a document retention policy? And how would you handle the transfer from current management if you were to be our new manager?
Sure.
So you stated document retention?
Sure.
Oh, yes. As far as the initial part, as far as everything we have is stored electronically, of course, within our system. And the great thing with Associate as well is that we have our own staff IT department, which is wonderful. It's not a service that we're calling. These are actually Associate employees and individuals. And they maintain all of our servers. It's backed up all the time. And so that's a huge benefit for our company where others are sort of subbing that out. In regards to a transition, that was the question, correct?
Correct.
As far as transitioning the property, we have a transition team within our company, which is great. That's something that, over the past few years, we've established that we really needed a team for that. We have a transition coordinator. Also, our VP of operations sort of oversees that. We set up initial meetings on the front end with the board to set up our expectations for the transition, the amount of time that it will take, and we try to make it as seamless as possible, right? It's all dependent upon the information that we get during the transition, but you're always informed. You will receive, at a minimum, a weekly update on the status, on a percentage of where we're at, and exactly where we're at. There, on occasion as well, we also have certain circumstances where maybe we're not getting all the information we need in a timely manner, and that's when we'll communicate to the board. Maybe we need to have you assist as far as maybe making a phone call and pushing someone along before we go to the next step. But it's pretty seamless. It's really dependent upon the time that we have the transition. We've literally transitioned in communities in 24 hours. Yes,
oh, goodness.
And we've had to. No, not this one. But we have done that. But we have a team that does that. Of course, Alex is involved. I'm involved. HR, of course, is involved. But that's something that, when I first came here, I thought we just needed to approve the process. So we needed people. We needed staff. We need personnel dedicated to transition accounts. So it's a pretty good process that we have.
Are your documents currently being housed on site here?
Yes, we have a local hard drive, and I do believe certain electronic documents are stored with our current management company. But this has been an issue in the past. So it sounds like there's an expectation that all HOA documents would be stored on an off-site server or a cloud and organized according to whatever specific document retention policy you have.
Right. So whatever we are given during the transition is going to get stored, and then going forward, we'll be organizing all your documents in our storage as well.
Could I step in that we're currently using Strong Room, so I'm assuming that if we transition to you, Strong Room would just change our vendor and all of our records would go over to you automatically for them for about the last year.
Yeah,
but what about previous records?
Yeah, in regards to what your historical records there, it is something that we can download, but being that we're on a different server and all that, we can download the historical information, but I'd have to look into that to get specifics, because I've had this question in the past. Unless we do manual data entry to enter all that into the system, the historical factor will still be there, but it's not like you can do your date search to go back from prior to when we managed your community. It's just we're not able to do that in Strong Room. I found that out not too long ago.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can be improved in the future. But you will have a download of everything. We'll have all your records, all your payables and all that. It's just not something that when you go in to look for an invoice prior to when we managed you, you're going to pull up that information from what you're looking at now rather than prior. And that's a strong room issue.
So we would go into Pope's strong room account to look at it?
No, we'll when we download all the information that you give us in your current strong room, it's just pretended like sitting in a separate folder. So pre-Associa is all here. So you're going to be able to search everything that we do going forward, like you're doing now when you search. But if you need something prior to Associa, you'll have to go to that specific folder to find the information. Like John was saying, in order to get that information into the current, it's all a manual. It's a manual process as opposed to just the download. So certainly something that I know that we've discussed and brought up to them that would be great to be able to do.
That's it's not really a common question, but I mean that's the second time I've heard, and we did look into it, and that's what we have to do is download it. You will have your information. It's just unless you're talking about a tremendous amount of data entry too to get it in there that way. But I don't see that it can merge together from one to the other.
I'm really excited to hear that you're using Strongroom.
And current prior year paper records would just remain in the files where they are now. That would just transfer those files into our clubhouse, or
So the answer is yes, it can be like that, but we can also offer to digitize those files for you. And once we do that, that'll end up part of our electronic records as well.
Because utilization of Strongroom has only been a quite recent.
Okay.
for this
Very
calendar year.
Oh, okay.
So most of our document archives are unfortunately paper, and obviously that would need to be addressed as part of the transition.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
would there be an additional charge for digitizing them?
The charge for digitizing is $50 a box. So what I always recommend is during a transition is take a look at those. I was about to say.
But it is a banker's box. There's a lot of information in that.
It's the large
A refrigerator
box you
box.
show up with. I got you. But yeah, so, and I always say in between the transition, go through those boxes, see what's in there that either is old enough that you can get rid of it, or you just don't need anymore it's not required to be kept per the state. And if you're able to kind of go through that, you can probably condense a lot of that into, and then we can digitize that for you at $50 a box, and that's going to beat any price out on the street. So, and we're happy to do that because the more we have electronic is easier for everybody.
Do you have a self-imposed deadline for providing financials, monthly financials, and when would that be?
Sure. So in our contract, we're going to leave it up to the board whether you want those on the 15th or the 20th of the month. And then, as you said, and I always say this to everybody, we do put them in your contract, so that holds us responsible to provide those financials to you by that date. And again, accountability on our end.
Okay. We have 1,425 homes in this community and one deed compliance employee. Do you think that's sufficient? And could you give us a brief overview of any technology you use to make sure the process is efficient?
Sure. I think if that employee is a full-time employee, I do think that's enough time for one employee. I love our compliance and and again, this speaks back to what John was saying earlier. We provide a tablet or their phone, and our compliance officers go out with that. They're taking pictures of the violation. All of the bylaws are loaded onto this, so it's all being populated as they're going through, and half the work is being done as they're driving through. Because a lot of the time you spend is matching the violation with the bylaw and then attaching the picture. So all this is in the system, and it's already working as they're going through. It's very easy to learn, so we could certainly train somebody on this that's already in that position. And then, as John was saying, it all gets uploaded to Town Square immediately. So people are receiving that information very quickly, as opposed to us coming back to the office, taking 3 days to type up a letter, then it goes in the mail, and then so there's a week that goes by, and meanwhile he's mowed his lawn and everything's great, right? So, and again, that provides the tracking, the history. so we can see how many times have you gotten this violation, what happened last month, and then is it a second, is it a third notice, however it works here, do we need to go to the finding committee? So and then the letter gets sent, after it gets done in Town Square, then a letter gets sent so we can make sure that we're doing our paper trail as well. And then again, the history.
Yes, with the C3 mobile, just like Alex said there, and what I like about it is that the person can be at work and it's dated when it was inspected. There's really no question. If you have a photo to back it up, it's proof, right? It is very doable with 1,400 homes, especially if you have one full-time compliance person to do that. The reason it's doable is because you have all that assistance. And once you go through your inspection, you literally go back to the office. If you want hard copies mailed out, literally they merge them, they just print them off, and they're in the mail that quick. But the notification is going. We've had some of our boards basically, let them get it through Town Square if they're registered, and then you sort of save a lot of money that way for copies, postage, envelope, and all that as well. So there is a cost savings there just to do it the electronic way, but some boards also want those letters sent out. It's really it's sort of tough to go in and see who's registered, who's not. But if we had the privilege to manage your community, we would definitely be out here and do some Town Square training. Buy refreshments, have something to get people in here, and literally have a group of people here to help them register for Town Square. And it's so simple, it's so easy, and there's an app and all that. But the more people try to promote it and continue to promote getting them on Town Square, because eventually there is a cost savings for the community, because there is technology and it's there for a reason. Even myself in the industry, just with Associate over the past 16 years, the ancillary income that we've made off copies has went down 80%, right, during that time, because it's just more and more. It's just the world we live in, correct? But it's a great platform, fantastic. It is doable because you have the technology, because you're really only doing it once, and you also don't need a whole team to do it. Right. They just print them off and stick them in the mail if you want to go that route.
And then as far as how the board preference is, additionally, a report can be printed and sent to the board immediately to give you a whole list of who was on the report. So while we're getting to know each other, if it's something that you wanted to see and take a look at and make sure that what we've written down is something that you'd violate for. And then also our managers on a weekly basis include that report in a manager report to the board. So every week you'll get a formal report from your manager that lets you know everything that's been kind of going on. Any kind of formal reports like a walkthrough or pending work orders or things like that will be included in that report.
Very good.
Did I understand you to say that I, as a homeowner, can access my records to see what I owe if I've been hit with any charges or late charges?
Yep.
If I get thrown in jail, I can change my mailing address so that my mail will come to me in jail?
Yes. Might take a little while to get through security, but yes. Yeah, all that, when you pull up, it's just like your home screen. Your ledger will be right there. You can see all of the transactions, what you owe, why you owe. You can pay it right there. You can change all your preferences. That's one of the things that, as John was saying, we love our first kind of interaction with the membership to be a fun meeting. We bring drinks, we bring refreshments, and we encourage people to bring their laptops and phones, and we get them set up. We like to be the good guys before we're the bad guys.
Yeah. Very good.
To clarify, you do provide reports that in this system that are generated so that you can actually see what's happening.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, there's every month, of course, you're going to receive a monthly board package, and that consists of many, many reports. And we have our standard reports, but a lot of boards like to see the architectural comp report. It's basically all your violations, whether they're open, the status, and closed, anyone that received them. And it could be fairly thick, depending on how many letters that actually went out. Mm-hmm. But we have so many settlement reports. What basically is providing you with a monthly report of all the homes sold in the community. That's a big plus, because once they're settled, you really don't know who your neighbors are. We can access a homeowner directory. We can send that to you, updated anytime you want it. But the settlement report is a big thing, especially with the market it is now,
Right.
because there's so many people moving in and out of communities that it's great for the board to know who that new person is, right? Maybe you have a welcome committee. That's a report that we've generated and sent all the time to welcome committees that maybe will knock on the door and welcome to the community. But it's almost any report you can think of. Anything we do, we have a report for. It's full disclosure. That way you know what we're doing and why we charge what we do to do the job. But it's a pretty extensive report, and you can customize it however thick you want it or however short you want it.
Are all those reports self-service, or do I have to actually tell you which report I want, and then you're going to compile it and send it?
Well, as far as going in, you basically, those reports of that style, you'll have to have it sent. But what you can do on the initial discussions, we would set that up from the front end.
Okay.
And you want these reports. Maybe you don't want to wait for your financial statement to get your monthly board package. Maybe you want this report weekly. Maybe you want a report after every inspection, right?
Okay.
To me, initially, that's exactly what as a board member, I would want to see how we're doing, number one.
Right.
Number two, and what's going out, then to check and see if we're doing our job right? But you can set these up however often, per task. So I do like the idea of initially, especially the first 3 months, send every inspection, whether you read it or not, right? Send it to you. The settlement reports, you can do those weekly. These are reports that are pulled within 1 second. That's how quick it is. They're in the system, but they're there for you. And you'll get those with your board package, but we can split those up however you want.
From an
And
efficiency
there are
and
some
productivity.
financial reports that you can pull on Town Square
Yes.
on your own. Like if you wanted to know, like a member balance report, wanted to see if so and so paid, that's updated a couple times a day. So you can get on there and pull reports like that. More customized reports, you'll have to go through us, but there's some basic financial reports you can pull daily.
Do you have something similar to a risk mitigation report in which you have established protocol that you will do specific site inspections and generate a report for any corrective actions that we would need to take place? And we're talking about common areas here. It's something we're very interested in, and would like to hear your position on it.
Yeah, in regards to this, that's really the initial part of taking over an account, right? Especially a community this size, because initially we're going to do a very thorough inspection. Take a look at all the amenities and all that, and that includes your common areas. So whether it just be your manager or a team of individuals that we bring onto your site, that's also a great thing that we initially do, because we want to take a look if there's any trip hazards within the neighborhood, right? If this fence maybe has a place where you can crawl under it or something, the small little things there. But as far as looking at the actual liability for the community, but that's generally done within, the first 15 days of management.
Right. Yeah, as John said, we like to come in, establish a baseline for all of the conditions of all of the common area, and from there, that's how we generate that report. So, we'll be checking that. You have an on-site manager here, so that will be somebody that's checked constantly, and that could be part of that weekly report that's sent to you. Let you know what's going on, how things are looking. This has changed with the pool. This is what was going on. We were changing the tile. This is done. So yeah, all that definitely can be done. Again, we'll come in and establish that baseline. We'll bring in experts as well. We can use the current vendors here. We can bring in outside vendors for independent views, just to get an idea of the condition of things, longevity of your items, and we'll establish the report that way.
Do you have relationships with vendors that could lead to some cost savings for us?
Yes, we do.
I was wondering who was going to yell yes first.
One thing we do not have, we don't have preferred vendors. What we have is vetted vendors, right? Our company does not take a markup from any company, anything like that. That's just not part of what we do. What we do is we have vetted vendors that we have good experience with that work for our community. And we have an extensive vendor list, and they have to have really a good rating within the company, or we do not allow them to work for our company or any of our clients. So we do. We have and Alice can talk more, but it's something that, especially with the business development team here, that they've been able to build a monster, wonderful vetted vendor list for the community.
Right. So that's all your local vendors. We definitely have a wide range of vendors that we can recommend for any job, and we'll always recommend several vendors. Additionally to that, we have what's called Associate Advantage, and this is a real cost savings program. For instance, like Home Depot gives Associate properties a special discount at all of their stores. Let's go to JCPenney. You can go to JCPenney and get a discount. So we have a whole Associate Advantage, Orkin, Sherwin-Williams, all these. We can give you the whole list. It's on one of our exhibits. Those as well will have specific savings for Associate properties, and some of them translate to the owners themselves.
Do you actively get involved with community social media sites, for instance, Facebook? We've had positions in the past where we've had community-sponsored Facebook pages that allowed comments. We've taken the position now that it was too difficult to sparse through the comments, and we're concerned about some liability issues. But is that something that you do from a management perspective?
So I think the answer to that generally is if the board is directing the manager to go through and look at the comments.
I can speak on this.
Yeah,
no. Quite honestly, I would not get into that. You do not want to go there.
Not big fans of the
your
Facebook.
Communications tool for the community should be Town Square. We manage you. And if there's Nextdoor out there, and sometimes a group of homeowners may get together and start their own area, and then
Really?
it's
Have all of you vote.
Or plural.
I've seen it so many times. But with Nextdoor, they can go out there and create their own network. And what it is, the homeowners that are new to the neighborhood, or just someone tells them that's where to go, that's where they get their information, right? But just continue to promote Town Square. Do not get involved in Facebook. Don't respond to any social media post whatsoever. You can respond on Town Square. Mm-hmm. If you have an issue or concern, you want to put it out there, put it on Town Square. The board will get it. We will get it. But that's the one thing I would say, just a word of advice from experience, because I have a lot of board members out there that just love social media, and they liked it after a couple drinks, too. And there's been some major lawsuits. So don't get involved in that, but make Town Square your primary communication source.
Yeah, and I could just say that it's an area that we've struggled a bit with, because we have a lot of residents that will literally go to an unsanctioned Facebook site and post a question, and it'll be answered, but by individuals that really aren't in a position to answer the question. And what we're trying to do is streamline that a bit to make sure, because we want to answer the questions, but we need to get them directed in a way that's productive for everybody.
Do you have admin on the site?
No, our current Facebook site is just informative. We don't allow comments, but unfortunately, most of the questions and comments are being directed towards unsanctioned Facebook sites. And
what you could do, if you have a Facebook site or anything like that for the community, what you can do is put a hyperlink and send them to Town Square. Okay. Hyperlink everywhere. I don't care where. Nextdoor, hyperlink. They click here and we'll answer your question. It'll take them to Town Square. Mm-hmm. It's really simple. But because they think they're just going to click and it's just they can put their question in, but it'll take them to Town Square.
The right place.
So whether it's Town Square or any other, but I would just advise don't get involved in that. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
And I'm just one last question, and then I'll just pass it on. How many communities do you currently manage in Florida, and has that number increased or decreased in the last 5 years?
I can definitely answer that. Well, the number over the last 5 years, right now we currently manage 225 communities. We have other communities that are starting this year, of course, so we should be in the state of Florida. This is Associate Gulf Coast, not Associate as a whole. We should be right around 230. Just over the past 3 years, we were at around 170. So we've had about a 25% growth rate just over the last 24 months. So we continue to grow there. In the state of Florida, I believe we're a little over 500 communities at this time. And we have, Nadine, 6 offices?
Yeah, we have 8 branches in Florida with 11 offices. Associate Gulf Coast is the largest of those branches, with Association Services of Florida and Miramar being the second largest. They said they're coming for us this year. They got a lot of work to do, but we're competitive. But like John said, we've been moving on an upward trend, and from an employee point of view, we've been on a gain for employees as well. So that's my world. That's really my visibility into the growth in the region is based on the employee count.
Good. Don, did you want to ask your question about the organization schematic? I think it might be helpful.
My question was what is the organization from us to you, and who are the intermediaries, and who are the oversights, and how are you going to be intimately involved with our community, other than you having corporate headquarters and that someone calls? What are you doing to oversee that what you're expecting to happen is actually happening?
So the direct contact for your for the CAM for this property will be Brian Heatherton, who is the director of this area. Brian reports directly to John. So John.
And where's Brian located? Fort Myers.
Well, again, initially, we would have to make it, I would think probably every other week just to stop in and see how things are going. But we have to get the account up and established and all that. But, and it's more coming in to see how things are going. Most likely, for the first quarter to the board meetings, just to make sure everything's going well there. But as far as the actual sort of chain of command, what we have is, of course, we have the managers. We also have senior community managers, which assist the managers. And they may oversee a manager, but in regards to an account of this size, we would have Brian as the director oversee the CAM. The CAM would report to him, right? And then Brian and I talk daily, but we talk about all communities on a weekly basis, and we go through everything. And we also, this would be part of a 10 list that we would go through and see how things are going, how's the transition. A year from now, how's it going? But as far as my involvement, I would definitely love to come to your annual meetings, and most likely I would say maybe 2 of your first 3 meetings just to come down and set in, allow the manager to do their job and allow Brian, but just to know that I'm there. I'm not a sort of sell you the business and you never see me again, because I always keep a short. There's a short amount of people involved from the boards to myself, but I do depend on Brian to do his job, and of course the manager. And I don't micromanage anyone, but they need to do their job. So I would still be involved. Of course, Nadine, she's the regional HR for the state of Florida. We also have another person, which is Caitlin Vincente, that is our HR generalist. So she'll have involvement in your community, believe me. And Alex will always be involved, because to this day, you still have people that came on board that'll still reach out to Alex if they have a question. But you'll meet a lot more people too, including our senior managers and all that. So there's not a tremendous layer to me, but we do have that. As far as an escalation path, let's say if you're not getting an email answer from Brian or something, then it literally just comes to me.
Mm-hmm. How about from a financial standpoint, the accounting support?
Yeah, I wanted to add that we do have a lot of support in our branch office. So we have an office in Fort Myers, Sarasota, Tampa, and St. Pete. And so St. Pete is our largest office for this branch, where we have an accounting team of 5 people, an HR team, myself and Caitlin. We have our operations team. We have administrative support right here in Fort Myers. And we have additional senior CAMs here in Fort Myers as well. So besides, the escalation path to John is quite short, we also have a lot of local support, as well as our support out of our Dallas home office. And the Dallas home office is really where the IT support is there. The real if we're getting that far down the road, the financial support. But first of all, we go to our local people at our branch office.
Right. And each of our properties are also assigned an admin as well. So they function out of the Fort Myers office. But that's another layer of support for your CAM specifically for admin work.
You mentioned Dallas, and so that's your big corporate headquarters. How do they support you, and what benefits do you get from them, and what benefits would we get?
And we, even within the company, it's like a bad word. We never call them corporate. It's called home office. It truly is.
Actually, I wrote home office on the paper, but I said corporate out loud.
They would love you. But these are individuals that I truly know from the top down. And what it is, we produce the financials there, but we have a client accounting team in our office still, right? So anything they have there, we have someone here. But what it is, it's more or less the big picture. We do need the IT. It's like if we were a local company, we wouldn't have the resources to afford what we have with that. But to me, it is we are a local company with national resources, and the reason we have the great technology is because of Associate. So there's a tremendous amount of support as far as our collections, right? Sending out a letter as far as anything that we need to have happen, as far as someone, lien intents, all of that. But all of that is there, but we send it out on a local basis as well. So we have a delinquency team, right? We know these leads. We have an accounting team. So the AR team, you have the AP team. And we don't have to worry also is that what if people have a life, they have to take a vacation, right? That work's going to be done. Your financials are going to be done. Those letters are going out, right? So that's the benefit with Associate. But it is a team. This isn't just a corporate headquarters or a center to where we don't know these people. We literally know them. We have meetings with these people. They're just part of the Associate family in another state.
Thank you.
Looking at your proposal, I don't see anything on there for health care for employees.
I'd be thrilled to tell you about health
I was gonna say,
care. It's literally my favorite thing to talk about.
Can you tell me where that cost is and what it is? Is that something to be billed in addition to what we've been given?
Yes. So Associa has a really rich benefits program for employees. Aside from standard items like medical insurance, vision, dental, short and long-term disability, life insurance, AD&D, we additionally have voluntary pet insurance. We have AFLAC. We have legal coverage. We have one of the best items. So I said I've been doing HR for 18 years, and the most unique benefit that Associa offers that I've never seen at another company is called Associa Benefits Plus. It's essentially a bucket of funds available to the employee for reimbursement for lifestyle enhancements. And so that means things like their gym membership, if they wanted a subscription to Weight Watchers, if they wanted to join a local museum and get a membership for cultural, experience. They can use it for all of those things. They are eligible on the January following 1 year of service. The first year they get $150, and then it increases at increments of $150 until they max at a cap of $1,000. And that's just money for them to spend on whatever is a priority in their life that enhances their well-being. And I just think that that's such a unique benefit because we try really hard to offer things that add value for people. But if you don't have a pet, then pet insurance doesn't add value for you. But Benefits Plus, everybody can find something that they can spend that money on. So we have a really rich offering. This year we'll be switching to Blue Cross Blue Shield. We always offer, a nationally covered insurance program with a major carrier. We're coming from Aetna. We're very cost conscious. We do want it to be affordable for the employee. We pay bi-weekly, so health insurance premiums are deducted bi-weekly. The cheapest plan that we offer is a high deductible health plan with a $2,500 deductible. It's an HSA qualified plan. The cost is $38.43 per paycheck to the employee.
And then is that billed to Sandoval or?
So the Sandoval would pay the employer costs, which I think we're billing $540
$540
for a pay period.
In the package that you received, there was a breakdown of all the insurance costs and how, and I can give you a copy today.
Yeah. We also have a very extensive benefits guide for the employees that I'd be happy to send over that describes all of the benefits and perks that are available to employees, in addition to things like paid time off, which we also feel is important for employees as well. So I'd be happy to share those details because I really do think it's one of the most premier offerings that I've seen with any company. And I came from companies like Kimpton, Hilton, Marcus Hotels and Resorts. I worked previously for the YMCA, so I've seen a lot of different benefits offerings, and this is, for the cost to the employee, it's just one of the best programs that I've seen.
Right, but the $540 a month is a pass-through to Sandoval.
Correct.
For those
For those who
full-time
enroll.
employees who elect to join.
That's accurate.
That's full-time employees only, right?
Correct.
And that package she's talking about was in the original proposal, but if you need an email version of that, I'll be glad to email it to you.
Okay.
Okay, Doug, I'm happy to see that you're using strong rate.
That was the burden
But
rates.
does our CPA have
Yeah.
remote access to your files to perform our audits?
Where?
No. In regards to the actual
Castle was
access
25
there,
across, like London.
any type of audits, they will actually work with one of our client accounting specialists, and they will send their list over, which is more of a checklist, and we get that information back to them. And we also have a tax team that if it's a sort of an extensive type of audit, they can assist as well, just so we get it done quickly. You know, the goal with any audit is to get them the information accurately and as quickly as possible. So we send that over.
Number generator, say he wants to look at 500 of our invoices over the year, you'll send him copies of those 500 invoices?
Absolutely, that's correct.
Okay.
All right. Melanie, do you have a question?
No, I'm okay. I know where.
So I have a question regarding your vendor oversight. What support would you provide in ensuring that the vendors are actually adhering to the terms of the contract and following through?
Sure. So I think that starts with when you hire your vendor, making sure that whatever job that they are bidding on, you're very clear in your proposal on that, and that their proposal back to you is very clear with the terms that you've laid out. So your CAM will oversee that job, whether it's a day job or a long-term job. They'll oversee that, and if it's a job where they have to mark off progression, they'll do that and report to the board. And ultimately, at the end of that, they will do a final walkthrough or a final review of it, and a check will not be released until that's been fully signed off on.
Mm-hmm.
As well as requiring all insurance, workers' comp, all the legal paperwork for all the vendors.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to say something?
Good.
All right. And then also, too, we talked a little bit about it, and I think you saw it was defined in the request for proposal, some of the key performance indicators as well as service level agreements. And what would be a normal response time to inquiries, whether it's an inquiry from the board to the office or from the office to the vendor to the corporate office or the home office?
Sure. So all inquiries, phone, email, town square, all should be answered within 24-hour business day. We do have after hours. I'm not sure what the emergency after hours is here specifically, but Associate provides an after hours service as well. That's also answered within 15 minutes. Or if it's not answered within 15 minutes, it gets sent to the supervisor. You don't want your supervisor answering the call that you didn't answer. And then keeps going until it gets answered. So we'll provide all 24-hour emergency service as well.
Okay,
And normally, like say communication-wise, as far as a phone call or email communication, it really the rule of thumb that all the directors know and the managers know is that if you receive something before noon, it really needs to be returned that same day. If it's like from noon forward to the end of business, then by noon the next day. So the 24 hours is there. We don't like to see it, but occasionally that'll happen.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. Al?
Good.
You're good, Melanie?
Just from an economy of scale perspective, is there certain things that when you come in that you would kind of take a look at and see where we could potentially save, and what is your approach to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So reviewing all of your contracts, number one, that will definitely be a part of our transition process. On boots on ground, reviewing all of your common area maintenance as well, and the services being provided there. Is it enough? Can we tweak that? But definitely reviewing your contracts, making sure that you're receiving the value of all of those. Can there be any tweaks made with things that we've seen in the past? Would definitely be part of the transition in process.
Okay, thank you.
I think we get that 7 minutes back.
I'll give you the floor. Do you have any questions of us? I mean, I know you were very cooperative and helpful, and it was very informative, but do you have questions for us?
Sure. So what would you say your biggest challenge is here at Sandoval?
Deed restriction.
So if I'm going to be honest, I would say from driving through, that is your biggest problem is deed restrictions.
It's been a start and stop, and it's sputtered, and it's still not done.
Yeah. So your sub-associations, do they manage their own enforcement, or does the master do all the enforcement?
Master.
Master does all the enforcement.
Except for the condos.
We have, the Willows do they have a sub-association? They have an ARC.
Not from a deed restriction.
Not deed
But not from a
restriction.
deed
They have a
restriction
sub.
point of view.
The condos is the only one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The master does supersede, so we do currently inspect the condos as
Okay.
well as the entire community as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I again, as I said, and I believe this is a gorgeous jewel of a community. I would say that's definitely the area that needs improvement here is the deed restrictions. And I know that with what we have in place with Associa, we can definitely make that efficient and much more effective. Do you have a finding committee in place?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Yes, we can definitely help you, and it's just, the key with anything, especially with enforcing the rules, is just being consistent across the board. No selective, be consistent, and eventually it will get worked out. But I can assure you that we can help with. That's a certainty.
It's a big one.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is one of the most important things that you're looking for in your management company?
I think customer service is huge.
Quality.
And quality, consistency across the board, and then greater efficiencies from an innovation and a technology standpoint. I don't know, anybody else?
How do you handle orientation of new homeowners? That's something I think could be streamlined.
Sure. So we have. Do owners have to fill out an application to move in here, buy or sell, or rent?
To rent, for sure. This is a process.
Okay. And do you require them to come to a meet and greet or anything of that nature? Is that required in your application?
Well, I think with COVID, I think things have.
Well, sure.
Yeah. Things have changed.
Yeah.
Haven't
they, though?
But they would need to come in and fill out to get the amenities card, the identification card, amenities card, the decal, the RFID decal for the gate operations for residents, and then the whole tenant, the renter process is a whole different.
Okay.
The initial, when they first purchase, have deed in hand, that's when we do the orientation, the first welcome.
Okay.
There and go through all
It's
that
been labor
process.
intensive in the past.
Sure.
That's what I think needs to be streamlined in some way.
Sure. That's kind of why I was asking what your current situation is. So we have a software called Tenant Evaluation. So and it's just tenant, but it goes for anybody applying to live here in Sandoval. So all of the pertinent documentation that you want those people to know, all of the incoming, will be listed on Tenant Eval along with your application. It gives them directions on how to make their payment, and then checklist of all the items that they need to know. This is just one layer of getting the information to them, so they know that they've had it. They know what there's rental restrictions that'll be listed there. And then if there is a meet and greet required, that will be part of that process as well. The manager will oversee making sure that application is complete before it gets to the committee or the board or whoever oversees that, whether it's the general manager. And then of course, if the meet and greet needs to be scheduled, they'll do that as well and sit in on that if that's.
Very good, very helpful. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Associa Gulf Coast. Very informative, very helpful. We appreciate it. Thank you.
So these are some Sandoval cookies, freshly baked. I did not bake them, so they're okay. And they're individually wrapped.